Ken Whiting here with Paddle TV, and in this video we're talking about rock gardening, or paddling in rock gardens, paddling in rough water, whatever you want. If you don't know what rock gardening is, it's something you do on the ocean in rocky areas where swell is coming in. You dance around the rocks and little islands in your kayak, avoiding the big waves or playing in the big waves. It's a chaotic, super fun thing to do. People who enjoy it love it, and I'm one of those people. It's not for everyone, but there's some really neat things that every kayaker, every paddler can learn from rock gardening, whether you're going to go in there or not. And so that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a small segment first. This is from a trip I did to Northern Ireland a year and a half ago. The Causeway Coast in particular, it was something else. And I got to explore it with Lorcan McBride. He's a guide and the owner of Far and Wild Adventures, a really cool adventure travel company up in Northern Ireland that offers trips for beginners right to expert paddlers on the Causeway Coast. So I'm going to show you this segment from my adventure in Northern Ireland. It starts off slow, but then it builds into some real rock gardening. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about what you just saw and provide some of the key learnings from that, maybe the key concepts related to paddling in a rock garden. And so enjoy this segment and I'll see you in a minute. To get my first taste of Irish paddling, I find myself gearing up in the small town of Ballycastle, where I'm launching to explore an iconic section of Ireland's coast called the Causeway Coast. To show me the way, I've hooked up with Lorcan McBride from Far and Wild Adventures, who regularly guides trips in the area and who knows these waters as well as anyone. And the water's actually...
It's quite warm, isn't it?
Yeah. I was expecting it to be a little cooler.
Yeah.
Well, getting my feet wet for the first time in Ireland. This is the North Antrim coast, not too far from the Giant's Causeway, and it's already spectacular. This is going to be good. I don't get to paddle on the ocean very often. I live about, 1,500 kilometers or 1,000 miles from the ocean. And so every time I do paddle on the ocean, there's a sense of excitement. You're entering this whole new world, this whole new environment, and it's a very big, big world. Oh yeah. When I picture the dramatic Irish coastline, this is what I pictured.
It really is quite a spectacular coastline. It's a feisty one as well, as you can feel today. We've got it on a fairly quiet day. Yesterday and tomorrow wouldn't be as pleasant for us. So you really have to choose your moments and respect, I suppose, the conditions.
Yeah.
Lots of forces at work.
For me, there's no better way to experience an environment than from the water. And when you're along a coast, the sea kayaking perspective really is unique. It's so immersive. You're right in the environment. You're moving with it, and you're part of the environment. You're not just looking at it, you're part of it.
So Far and Wild run a Causeway sea kayaking tour right along the Causeway Coast. So it takes in a lot of different features, a lot of different places, in quite a wild environment. It is accessible to absolute beginners, mostly in the summer season, perhaps from May through to September. It's forgiving, put it that way. Outside of that, it gets a wee bit difficult to paddle unless you've got a lot of kayaking experience. But for the beginner, it's a kind of place that you can look at from the top of a cliff line or from a car park and think, wouldn't it be amazing to be in that water, kayaking along? And once you get in it, you become connected in a much different way with the landscape, what it's saying, what it's about, and you learn more. Effectively, the closer you are to it, the more you're learning.
As we travel further west along the Causeway Coast, the swell grows in size, and the shoreline becomes a rock garden, the ultimate playground for expert paddlers. These aren't conditions that Lorcan can take many clients into, but today, it's our turn to play.
When we're guiding trips, we don't take people out in conditions where we feel they won't be able to be in control and to have an enjoyable experience. And today was a bit more exciting than normal in that the sea had a good bit of swell in it, and we were trying to make our way through areas that were fairly chopped up.
Lorcan and I are, I'd say, we're cut from the same cloth in that when we see narrows or pinch points between rocks or channels, and there's some breaking water in there, they're a little chaotic, but we're like moths drawn to the flame. You just have to go explore and see, can we get in there? Well, one thing that you remember very quickly paddling in the ocean with swell like this is how small you are and how big Mother Nature is.
When you're open water sea kayaking, everything around you is fairly straightforward. You've got no obstacles. When you decide to rock hop, you're kind of putting yourself into a little bit of danger to kind of explore more. And on a calm day, it's completely fine. You might get really good visibility. When there's a bit of swell in the ocean, then that can turn round a bit. You can have lots of water pouring over the top of some of the rocks. You can have these kind of push throughs where the wave gets compressed and kind of jacks up way high. And as long as you can handle it, it's a really enjoyable experience. Every day is different on the Causeway for sure.
I think that really shows beautiful place. The Causeway Coast is something else, a place you have to go see for yourself. And it has something for everyone, beginner right through to expert paddlers. Not always. I mean, the weather will dictate whether or not how rough it's going to be or how calm it's going to be, but definitely a place to put on your bucket list. Actually, Northern Ireland and Ireland in general, it's got to be on your bucket list if it isn't already, unless you live there, and then you're just lucky. Anyway, diving right into it, rock gardening. First thing I'm going to talk about, the boat that I chose to use there. As you saw at the beginning of that clip, it was a portable kayak that came in a bag that I flew to Ireland with. It's the Kayak Bluefin 142, and if you watched any of my content over the past couple of years, you've probably seen me use it a number of times. I reviewed it 3 years ago, and actually, it surprised me. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, and it's a great portable kayak. It's a great kayak, and the fact that it's portable, that you can fly with it or just throw it in the trunk or back seat of your vehicle is awesome. A little bit about it, I'll leave a link to the full review in the description box down below, but very simply, it's a 14-foot hard shell kayak, breaks into those 6 pieces that it's a modular kayak. They snap together basically. It's 24 inches wide. So 14 feet long is not long for a sea kayak. It's short for a sea kayak. Most sea kayaks that people rock garden or a sea kayak with are going to be more in the 15, 16, even 17 foot length. 24 inches wide is also a bit wider than a lot of sea kayaks. The trade-off there is you get stability. It's going to be slower traveling forward, but it's more stable than a lot of sea kayaks. Now, even though it's 14 feet long. It doesn't have a lot of rocker, meaning the rocker is the curvature of the kayak, the banana shape it has when you look at it from the side. The more rocker a kayak has, the more maneuverable it is. The less rocker it has, the better it tracks. The Kayak, it doesn't have a lot of rocker, and that is to trade off on the fact that it doesn't have a rudder or a skeg to help it track. And so it doesn't have a lot of rocker, but it tracks quite well without a rudder or a skeg. Why did I choose the Bluefin 142? Well, for one, I was flying to Ireland, and so I needed a portable kayak. One of the first questions people ask me about it is, how durable is it? And I mean, I think that says it right there. I was very comfortable taking in those types of conditions. That's how much confidence I have in it. The cool thing about the Kayak, and the reason I was comfortable taking it out there, is because of the modular, the way it's built. It has 2 built-in bulkheads, and any kayak you take in those types of conditions has to have bulkheads. If you don't know what bulkheads are, they're simply walls inside the kayak that separate the kayak into different compartments. Usually you have one right behind the seat, and then you have another one right in front of your feet, at least for sea kayaks. And that means if you flip, you pull your skirt, only the center, the cockpit area, is going to get swamped with water. The front and back of the kayak are going to stay filled with air. The way the Kayak is built, it has natural bulkheads right behind the seat and in front of the feet, which is not common for portable kayaks. Now, sticking with the theme of gear, something else you may or may not have noticed is that Lorcan and I, we weren't wearing helmets in those conditions. It was a decision we made in the situation we were in, and basically we didn't have helmets. We went out paddling that day not expecting to get in those types of conditions whatsoever. It was nice and sheltered and calm. The direction of the wind was such that we expected just a light swell, calm seas like we had for the better part of the day. It wasn't until the end of the day where we came around that corner into that rock garden that the swells really, we were exposed to those swells, and we had some rough conditions. At that point, this is where experience comes in. You know, between Lorcan and I, we have 60 plus years of paddling experience to draw upon to make the judgment call of, hey, you know what, we don't have helmets. It would be nice to have helmets, but are we comfortable with the risk and going in here? And we decided we were. It's as simple as that. And we have the experience to make that judgment call. Did it impact how we paddled? Maybe we were a little bit more conservative, to be quite honest. I wasn't thinking about it, because whether I was wearing a helmet or not, I'm going to be conservative in those types of conditions because they're big, they're powerful, way more powerful than us. You have to respect Mother Nature and make conservative decisions in those types of situations. So I really don't think it actually impacted how we paddled at all. In an ideal world, yes, we definitely would have been wearing helmets. Helmets is one of those things that there isn't a clear-cut line to when you should wear a helmet and when you shouldn't. As a general rule, better safe than sorry. If there's any doubt, wear a helmet. It's not like life jackets, though. Life jackets, there is no, the line is very simple. You go on the water, you wear a life jacket. That's a lot. There's not much discussion to be had with that one. Moving right along on the topic of gear, something else you might have noticed is that Lorcan and I were using 2 very different types of paddles. I was using the Aquabound Manta Ray. It's a Euro style paddle with the big blades. It's the most common type of paddle that you'll see. Whereas Lorcan was using a Greenland paddle, which a lot of you may have never seen before. It's almost like some people call it paddling with a 2x4, because it looks like just one uniform piece of wood. The interesting thing about Greenland paddles, and I tested one for the first time, I think it was 4 years ago, and really have grown to appreciate them. I appreciated them right away. They're designed to spread the load over a longer blade. Instead of just having you catch water at the end of the paddle blade, which You get a lot of power that way, but it's harder on the body. It's a bit more jarring with every stroke. Greenland paddle spreads the load over the whole blade, so you get purchase throughout the stroke over a bigger area on the paddle. The bottom line is it really reduces the wear and tear, the impact on the body, so you can paddle for longer without getting tired and potentially avoiding some overuse injuries. It works. It absolutely works. And people who get into Greenland paddles tend to love them. It does take some time to get used to them. And for me, even though I'm used to them now, in those types of conditions, it's not my paddle of choice. Some people will say it's the best paddle for those types of conditions. I would disagree with that because for the same reason I don't use them in whitewater. When you're in rough conditions, I want a paddle that can give me maximum power in a flash, as soon as I need it to make a correction, to pull through something. Now, you don't give up a lot of overall power with a Greenland paddle, but you give up that immediate power that you get with a Euroblade. And that's what I'd like to have in any type of rough conditions. And honestly, that's why you don't see any whitewater paddlers using a Greenland style paddle, is because having power when you need it is really important. But very cool paddle. It's not that you can't go into those conditions and it's irresponsible to go in those conditions. There's no right or wrong. It's what you're comfortable with. Circling back a little bit to, I mentioned that we chose to paddle on this day because of the conditions. It was supposed to be a calmer day. Well, more specifically, there was a pretty big storm front swirling around in the area, in a very big area. And the day before, the winds were horrendous. And the day after, the winds were going to be horrendous again. We didn't actually plan initially to paddle on that day, but we moved our day of paddling to that day because the weather dictated it. And when I say the weather, I really mean the wind dictated that would be the best day to paddle. For rock gardening, that really is a rule you have to follow. It's a lot like, a lot like anything in the surf, to be quite honest, is the weather, the wind, the swell. Mother Nature dictates when you shouldn't go. And that is one of the frustrating things about rock gardening, is sometimes maybe you have an afternoon off or a day off, and it's a very specific one, and you want to go rock gardening so bad, but the conditions just aren't right and it's too dangerous, and you just have to accept that. You have to accommodate Mother Nature first and foremost, and expect plans to change, and don't resist changing plans when it's clear that they should be. And we almost had to change plans in that particular trip when we got to those rough conditions, to the rock garden itself, and the swells were bigger. We took a good look and explored a little bit before making the full judgment call to let's keep going. We were ready to change plans, and you have to be. I think that's probably when you're paddling in open water, exposed water, not just rock gardens, anytime you're on the ocean or in big lakes, any exposed water, you have to be willing to change your plans either before because of forecasts or in the moment because things change. Now let's talk about strategies when you're paddling in rough water, ocean swell, and in particular rock gardens that have swell. The first thing is you have to have a very broad awareness of what's going around you. In particular, I spent a lot of time looking over my shoulder when I was facing shore, making sure I kept tabs on the waves that were coming in, the sets of waves that are coming in. The worst thing in the world that can happen is you get surprised by a big set. And so you have to constantly keep tabs on the waves, the swell that's rolling in. When you're on a river, paddling, you're often moving from an eddy to an eddy. And eddies are often found behind rocks or behind outcrops along the shore of a river. Well, when you're in a rock garden, the rocks and islands don't provide eddies because there's not current. In fact, being close to those rocks or behind rocks oftentimes is the worst spot to be, because that's where the water's a little shallower, and these swells that come in when they hit shallow water, they're going to grow, pitch, and dump and break. That's the danger zone. That's the break zone. And so instead of tucking in close to shore, trying to find shelter in behind rocks, what you're doing is you're moving in between sets, moving from deep water channel or pocket to another deep water channel. And you can tell that by the color of the water. And for one, the darker water tends to be the deeper water. You can also tell just by watching where the waves are breaking, and you'll see waves breaking consistently breaking in one spot, but not breaking in the deeper channels. And those are the places that you're moving to. You're moving from deep spot to deep spot. So it is very similar to eddy hopping down a river. Final thing I'm going to talk about is safety in rock gardens. There's risk paddling in rock gardens. There's risk paddling in big swell, in exposed ocean. And that risk is amplified a little bit when you've got rocks around you. So, a life jacket goes without saying. A helmet is certainly a great idea. I highly recommend it. Do what I say, not what I do. I do use helmets like I said, I would have used a helmet there if I had it. Also, anytime you're paddling in exposed water, what you need is the training and the practice to be able to deal with a capsize. You have to expect that that's going to happen. If you capsize, do you have the skills, and have you practiced those skills enough so that you're confident in being able to do what needs to be done? For example, do you have a roll? That's the ideal self-rescue skill. If you don't have a roll, and so if you do flip, you're going to end up swimming, are you comfortable re-entering your kayak with the assistance of your paddling buddy? You're going to be in rough waters, so if that is a skill you have, you better be good at it in rough conditions. And that means being very good at it in flat water. It also means your paddling partner better be very proficient with their rescues, because assisting someone in those types of conditions is also tricky. Are you comfortable swimming in those types of conditions? So it isn't for everyone, but it can be for a lot of people. But you do need training in order to go into those types of conditions safely. And that's where taking a sea kayaking course, it's a wonderful thing to do, because even if you don't want to go into those types of conditions, learning those skills is going to open your world to all sorts of different paddling opportunities. And you're going to be more comfortable and confident when you're out there. Less nervous, because hey, if something goes wrong and I flip, I know what to do. And the people who are with me know what to do. We can deal with that situation. It's when you don't know that you're even more nervous, because you shouldn't be there. So highly recommend, whether or not you ever want to go rock gardening, take a sea kayaking course if you want to paddle in exposed conditions of any nature. Another thing you can do is there's an online sea kayaking course. A couple of guys, James and Simon, they have just done an amazing job with developing this online course that you subscribe to. It covers so much from the basics of kayaking, sea kayaking, strokes and concepts, to rough water paddling skills, navigation, expedition planning. The list goes on. They've really done an amazing job. So I definitely would recommend, if you want to continue your learning, continue progressing as a paddler, check out their course. I'll leave a link in the description box down below. And no, they're not paying me to say that. I'm really just a fan of what they've done. For me, anything that helps people get on the water and have a better time, safer time, and helps people progress, I'm a real fan of. And they really have done not only a great job with the content, but they've filmed it really. I appreciate people who produce nice looking content too, and it's really well done. So good job, guys. But I'll leave a link down below, and there's a discount code there for you can get 20% off too, which doesn't hurt. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Paddle TV if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out and subscribe to my new YouTube channel, Ken Whiting Adventures. That's where all my paddling adventures are now going. It's a couple videos from last season on there already, and I'm about to start some new paddling adventures. So a lot of new content will be coming up on that channel as well. Leave a comment down below, a question. If you want to leave some nasty words about me not wearing a helmet, fair enough, I'll take that too. But yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon for another paddling tip, a gear review, or a paddling adventure on my other channel.